This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. So my assistant the other day, Michelle, she was working on a blog post, and I had not seen this article, but Barry Ritholtz had this piece up called "Things I Don't Care About." And I've had Barry on the podcast. Barry and I've sat down a bunch before. He appeared in my film, and his podcast is great. He's a funny guy, smart guy. But anyways, his blog post, because it's things I don't care about, and basically, the idea is what are you going to do with your time? You can flip on the tube, you can flip on the internet, you can flip on this, that, whatever. You can be connected to every device possible all the time. You could be a part of the matrix. You could have the intravenous drip straight into your arm. Just freaking straight in. But what does it do for you? What does all that commentary do for you? And that's kind of Barry's point in this blog post. What does the commentary do for you? Because ultimately, I don't care whether you're a trend following trader or any type of investor. You need a process. You need a set of rules that tell you you're going to enter here, you're going to exit here, and here's how much you're going to bet of your limited capital at all points in time, regardless of account size, regardless of volatility. I mean, you're taking your volatility into account, but you need a process that focuses on that. And so if you have that, then eliminating all the other stuff is paramount. And it's not just only eliminating for trading reasons, for life reasons. And so Barry has a fun list here, and it's a list of things that he doesn't have the slightest interest in. Who the next Treasury Secretary will be. The Herbalife hedge fund battle. 90% of Wall Street research. I'd actually disagree with Barry and probably say 100% of Wall Street research. People who don't believe in evolution. The fiscal cliff. Dell going private. Why Ben Bernanke is going to cause hyperinflation. 75% of what is on CNBC. I would probably have to go that unless it's an interesting interview with the likes of a trend following trader or someone who's completely objective, I'm probably at 99.9% of what's on CNBC. I don't watch it, so I'd have to turn it on and see what they're even talking about. I couldn't even tell you that. I assume Maria Bartiromo is still on there, but I couldn't tell you the names of the hosts. Any reality television. However, I do want to watch this new reality show out of West Virginia because I think this is becoming the archetype of America. I think it's a bunch of kind of 20-somethings that drink a lot and do things that cause them to have multiple children with multiple partners. And then I think maybe the children start drinking by the age of 12 too. Something like that. But that's a whole different tangent. So Barry goes on to say, what Lance Armstrong's doping. I couldn't agree anymore. I mean, seriously, why are we being burdened with having to know anything about Lance Armstrong? He would not have won anything without the doping. And now he admits the doping. Who cares? Like, who are the people that want to, it's not relevant. Who cares? Lindsay Lohan's next movie, arrest, rehab visit. And so, I mean, we could go on forever about the things that don't matter. And as Barry was saying, that's just off the top of his head. And he goes on to say, look, I'm not claiming to have found the Holy Grail. I don't claim to have found the Holy Grail. However, when you compare side by side a process like a trend following trading process to other processes out there, buy and hold, et cetera, Trevine starts to smell pretty nice. It has a nice smell of roses, so to speak. But, I also kind of got inspired by this Barry post to say, he says things I don't care about. And I was kind of like, well, what are the things that I care about? Because I know Barry's not a negative guy. He just happened to have written that post like that. And I'm sure he has a ton of things. I know he has a ton of things that he cares about. And he could easily write that list too. So as I branch away, and I was just thinking about what are the things that Michael Covel cares about? What do I care about? And I was, like I said, I was somewhat inspired by going the opposite of his list. Because he was just doing that for effect. I mean, that's just to, tell people here's a bunch of nonsense you shouldn't pay attention to. So what do I care about? I like Alan Watts. So, the British guy who basically introduced Eastern philosophies to the Western world. And his spoken word stuff and his written word stuff is very inspiring. And I don't really think look, he's not necessarily carving new territory. I mean, he's going on teachings that go back thousands of years, as everybody gives a new spin on things. I mean, trend following goes back a long, long time, and I've given a new spin on it, and I've kind of helped bring it forward. That always happens. There's nothing really new out there. It's just a matter of somebody who comes along and tries to give things a new spin or a new interpretation or a new, shine some new light on a subject, for example. What else do I like? What else do I care about? My friends. I care about my friends. We'll get that one out of the way. I care about my family. I think most people can say that. But let me get specific. What things do I care about? I care about ZenHabits.net. I like the website, Zen Habits. I mean, whenever you read it, you just kind of say to yourself, wow, this is such a nice reminder as to why nearly 100% of everything that comes across the screen these days is useless, is stuff that just ties up your brain, that doesn't help you really lead a life, doesn't help you invest, doesn't help you trade. It doesn't help you do anything except, not unlike some of the fatty foods that clog arteries. I think that's really a lot of what information does. It just clogs your brain. So ZenHabits.net, Seth Godin's website. I care about what Seth Godin writes because he writes very clearly and he's describing succinctly what we face and how to get around it. And if I had to sum up Seth Godin, it'd be really simple. Don't think you're going to work for the man for the rest of your life. That, quote, job is going to go away. Get rid of the word job from your brain and become an artist. Now, as you're sitting there right now and you're saying to yourself, Covel, I'm going to become an artist. What does that mean? Okay, schmuck, if you're actually thinking that. What he means by artist is an independent person that creates something, anything. The spoken word, the written word, a consultant. Could be in computer science. It could just be painting. It could be anything. It could be trading. A trader is an artist. That's what he means by artist. Somebody that wakes up each day and takes personal responsibility for what happens in their life. Not somebody who wakes up each day, gets on the bus, gets on the train, trogs to work, puts the suit on, and plays corporate worker all day. Because I got to tell you, all you folks out there that are playing corporate worker all day, you can try and fool yourself that you're actually enjoying it. You can try and fool yourself about all the benefits and the salary and all that other kind of stuff. But as somebody who has worked for himself for a long freaking time, I got to tell you, that benefit of not having to say, yes, sir, to an asshole, and I'm not saying all bosses are assholes, but that benefit is nice. There's something to it. And as somebody who has learned a lot from yoga, I guess, I'm using my expletive there for effect. But there's some truth to it. I don't say it in any kind of anger or any way. But there are a lot of people out there that surely would not be fun to work for. So how do you find your way to being an artist? So people that I care about Seth Godin because Seth Godin is talking about becoming an artist. And that is just a brilliantly simple concept. Okay, great, Covel. What does this have to do with trend following trading? Oh, you haven't figured it out yet? You want to be a trend following trader and you don't want to be an artist, really? This is going to be you're just going to be a trend following trader and this is going to be some isolated little thing and, you're not going to really have to think about it and And no. That's not the way it works. If you're going to be good at anything, you have to be passionate about it. You have to care. You have to get inside it. You have to own it. And if you don't want to do that, don't do that. If you don't want to own it, give your money to the Fidelity family. Let them get richer off the fees that come from your account. And when interest rates do go up, because they will go up and the black swan swims in, and equity mutual funds take their 50% haircut again right when you're about ready to retire, then you can reassess the idea of being on autopilot attached to the matrix with no concept or clue of what you were actually doing in your trading. Seth doesn't actually talk about those things. I kind of added that. So what else do I care about? I got a whole list of things here. Let's see, which one do I want to go with? I care about the lessons that I have learned from the many traders in my books. I care about sitting at a cafe with Salem Abraham in Canadian Texas and watching how Salem had to handle a particular situation with a couple of guys that were building a skate park, and watching how he handled the situation, watching him, the people skills. These guys had kind of messed up a little bit. Some of their behavior had gotten a little randy in a small town in Canadian Texas, and Salem had to kind of put his foot down a little bit. It's those kinds of lessons, watching how people handle situations. Watching, sitting down and talking with David Harding in London on multiple occasions, watching how he thinks. The first time I sat down with David Harding, I still can't, I joke about this, I've told this to his assistant, I don't even play the audio that I saved. I've kind of kept it away because, he's a great guy, but he dropped a ton of F-bombs. It was hysterical. It was awesome. Dog was running around the room and he's dropping F-bombs left and right. But the thing that I took from David Harding and the reason that he's successful is the man understands competition. He likes to compete. He knows there's opponents out there and he wants to compete and he wants to win. He's not just on autopilot. Don't let the professorial, white-haired London guy fool you. Anybody that's got half a sense to them and sits down and talks with David Harding realizes he's a competitor. Same with a guy like Larry Height. Competitor. Larry might give the aw shucks kind of older Jewish guy from New York City. Larry wants to kick your ass. That's what he wants to do. So I think about all these various experiences. I just remember sitting down with Michael Clark at his house in Chicago. And that just tells you something, that he was running this massive hedge fund out of his house in Chicago. I don't know if all the clients knew that's where the hedge fund was based out of. But when you see it, it just confirms, more confirmation. I like all the white papers that Ken Tropin's firm put out. I care about those. They taught me a lot. I care about, mentioning David Harding again, I care about having a copy of the Winton papers. Another great teaching lesson. And to realize that those really don't circulate these days because perhaps they might have thought they put too much information in the Winton papers. I care about the fact that I have more audio from trend following traders over the years that has never been public. It's not out there, including a very rare speech that William Eckhart read that is so crystal clear thinking that when you listen to it, you're just inspired. You just know that even though he put that together and he read it nearly 20 years ago, maybe it was longer, nothing has changed. I could play it for you right now, and it doesn't make a difference what he said then versus what year it is today. I care about that. I care about knowing how the behind the scenes really works. See, that's half the battle. That's where the confidence comes from. When you go behind the curtain and you see what behind the curtain really means, and you see the people behind the curtain put their pants on just like you do, that's inspiring. It's actually more than inspiring. It's just how it is. And then you start to realize that you get behind the scenes and you see how the, quote, masters of the universe operate. And that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt, here's how it works. For example, in the trend following space. And then you flip on the TV and you see graphics and things flying across the screen and people yelling and announcers that are clearly reading teleprompters that have no idea of what they're even talking about. Very pretty women who are giving a little cleavage and a little skirt hike. Kind of dopey guys that act like they're the guy next to you on the bar stool drinking. And that's what's presented to the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people think that's about making money. I had a relative call me the other day and said he was watching Bill O'Reilly, which is fine. Some people watch Bill O'Reilly, some people don't, whatever. And he said that Bill O'Reilly had said the dollar was going to get massively devalued. Maybe, maybe not. Do you want to bet your life on that? I don't. If it trends down, let's go short. If it trends up, let's go long. See, it's a much simpler way to do it than turning on, once again, getting back to what Barry says he doesn't care about, all those kinds of media that are pounding you nonstop. It's designed to induce anxiety. It's not good. So those are the things that I care about. I care about having honest interactions with people, whether it's an email, and I've probably exchanged hundreds of thousands of emails over the years. I think most people know that if you write me an email, I will write you back. If you say something silly, I'll still write you back. I might not really have a long conversation with you. I generally will try and connect with most new people on Facebook. Now, if you say something dumb, you're probably going to get banned because I really don't want to deal with you if you're kind of, if you got personality issues that require you to see Dr. Phil. I want to jump into one last segment, though, completely unrelated to personality issues with Dr. Phil. So, one of the foundations of modern finance is the idea of efficient markets. And academics love this idea, the efficient market hypothesis. And they can claim that they have mathematical formulas which can predict the future, even though the underlying assumptions are provably false. But for a professor, the ability to create beautiful mathematics is important, since it means that they are less likely to be teased by physicists in the faculty club. Life is infinitely more interesting for an academic if they can create beautiful mathematics in their papers. And it's amazing how many people have been sold up the river with investment products that are based on the idea that markets are efficient, that there's no extremes. We're just going to go right now. Bernanke, he's got everything under control. Interest rates are at zero. Stock market is at 5-year highs. Everything's just going to go swimmingly along. There's never going to be a hiccup. There's never going to be a bump. There's never going to be another 50% drawdown in a buy and hold mutual fund. It's just smooth sailing. That's kind of the non-academic way of describing efficient markets. And so I have to quote, to counter this idea of efficient markets. I'm going to read some quotes from Charlie Munger of Berkshire Hathaway. And look, for those of you that want to say, what are you doing quoting Charlie Munger? You said all these negative things about Warren Buffett in your book, 10 Commandments. Well, I did say negative things about Warren Buffett in my book, 10 Commandments. Now, I didn't say, hey, he's a jerk. He, da-da-da-da. I said, look, salute Warren Buffett and his success. Tremendous success. Great trader. Knows how to make lots of money. Just don't tell me it's a bunch of buy and hold and picking value stocks. I mean, the guy's the master of derivatives, okay? He's the master of having the phone call into the president and having a freaking, a direct line to Goldman Sachs. So let's just put the value investing nonsense aside. However, I do like some of these quotes that Charlie Munger talks about with the efficient market hypothesis. He goes on to say, I have a name for people who went to the extreme efficient market theory, which is bonkers. It was an intellectually consistent theory that enabled them to do pretty mathematics. So I understand its seductiveness to people with large mathematical gifts. It just had a difficulty in that the fundamental assumption did not tie properly to reality. See, good point. Because see, Charlie knows that there's outliers. He knows there's black swans. He knows markets aren't efficient. Look at Berkshire's performance. He goes on to say, the possibility that stock value in aggregate can become irrationally high is contrary to the hard form efficient market theory that many of you once learned as gospel from your mistaken professors of yore. Your mistaken professors were too much influenced by rational man models of human behavior from economics and too little by foolish man models from psychology and real world experience. Well, there you go. There's the sum up of behavioral finance, right? That's the sum. Rational man? How can there be rational man when Jersey Shore gets high ratings? How can there be rational man when people are addicted to all these reality shows and addicted to cable news shows nonstop? Nobody's rational anymore. There's no such thing as rational. And even if there was, the market still might go in a completely different direction than what rational is even deemed to be. Let me read one more from Munger. Efficient market theory is a wonderful economic doctrine that had a long vogue in spite of the experience of Berkshire Hathaway. In fact, one of the economists who won, he shared a Nobel Prize. And as he looked at Berkshire Hathaway year after year, which people would throw in his face as saying, maybe the market isn't quite as efficient as you think, he would say, well, it's a 2 sigma event, meaning their success away from this, standard deviation. And then he said, we were a 3 sigma event. And then he said, we were a 4 sigma event. And he finally got up to 6 sigmas. Better to add a sigma than change a theory just because the evidence comes in differently. And of course, when this share of a Nobel Prize went into money management himself, he sank like a stone. And that would be Munger's reference to long-term capital management, which is a chapter that you should read in my book, Trend Following, not about Charlie Munger, but when long-term capital management and all its Nobel Prize winners all went buns up, there were people on the other sides of those trades making a fortune. And those would be trend following traders. I just wanted to paint that today as a second little segment, the idea of how efficient markets, at least the theory of efficient markets, became so widely advocated. And, professors like that stuff. I mean, I still remember the guy who I had in marketing as a professor. I might have mentioned this on a podcast. I had him in grad school, and he was hired out by the tobacco companies to prove academically that Joe Camel was not designed to target children. And he actually apparently proved this. At least in his own mind, he proved it. Now, I don't think most people agree with him. I thought he was an absolute idiot. But that's neither here nor there. So I want to end today, though, with a little piece of music, which I don't know why I thought of it today, but I was thinking, there's always a storm out there, right? A storm. There's some kind of a storm coming along. And that doesn't mean that you have to sit around and worry about things. No, but you have to know that life is volatile. You have to know there's ups and downs. If you've got this idea that it's all one big straight line, well, when the straight line goes the other way, you're going to have trouble. Psychologically, you're going to have trouble. You'll have trouble as a trend following trader. You'll have trouble in your life. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.